pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the regular meeting of the City of Bloomfield Hills Zoning Board of Appeals. The date is May 20th, 2025. We have just a few matters on the agenda, but first things first, administratively, we need to review the minutes from the last meeting. Has the commission had an opportunity to review the minutes, and are there any remarks or changes or comments?
I'd like to make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, minutes approved. All right, the first matter on the agenda is the board will consider the request from the property owner at 350 Lowell Court for approval of setback variances to construct a garage addition. Eric?
Hey, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the Zoning Board. My name is Eric Peach with Giffords Webster, the city's planning consultant. Our first item for consideration is the home at 350 Lowell Court. As was stated, this is for setback encroachments. So the subject site is located at the end of Lowell Court at the cul-de-sac. It's zoned A3, so the A3 zoning district requirements and standards apply. An aerial of the wetlands map shows that there is some activity here that's wet. Off the top of my head, I don't recall the name of the stream. But there are some hydric soils on the property as well that don't have any impact ultimately for our review.
It's actually the Rouge.
That's the Rouge, and then just to the east is the Endicott Lake, an arm of Endicott Lake, and then the lake itself further to the east. And moving on to the establishment of the yard determination graphic, we have a little bit of a unique situation in that at the end of the cul-de-sac of Lowell Court, you'll have the front yard on an arch here up until where it hits the first part of the house. And then going north on the west side of the property is a 24-foot wide platted access easement. So applying that to the yard determination as well, you get a front yard along that easement as well. So then in addition to that, opposite of the front yard is the rear yard, and so along the east property line you have a rear yard highlighted here in orange. It's very narrow because the existing house is in close proximity to that. So that creates this narrow strip of rear yard, and then everything in between is the yellow shaded area, and that's where your side yards are determined. So zooming in over here on the left-hand side of the screen is the area of focus. It's this existing garage right here that you can see encroaches the 40-foot required setback for the rear yard, and it's this portion in blue that is the proposed addition that's seeking approvals for the portion that encroaches into the 40-foot setback there. So like I said, we apply the A3 zoning district standards to this site. So the minimum setback is 40 feet, as was shown on the previous image. The existing house is at 23.4 feet, the existing garage. So that's what's considered an existing non-conforming structure. So we have to look at that and determine if there's any impacts as the proposed addition influences that at all. So with the proposed addition, that's taking down that existing encroachment from 23 down to 21 because there's a slight angle with the addition that makes it so that it's slightly closer to the property line than what the existing house is. So that's what's before you today. In addition to that, the highlighted blue rows, this is where the algebraic setback is applied to the home or the primary structure. So we did a whole bunch of test lines, as you can see here, just to try and determine at what point, if at all, does the proposed addition negatively impact the algebraic setback. So we'll go through the image in just a second, but the first 5 test lines that are applied to the site meet the setback requirement. The remaining 11 through 14 also meet, but everything in between from line 6 to line 10 do not meet, and we'll go over those in just a second here. The remaining standards for the A3 district is the building height. We wanted to make sure that this proposed addition here does not exceed the 30-foot height limit, when in fact it's only 19 feet high and matches the 2 stories of the existing home. And then it's a very minor addition. It's only 5 feet wide. This is that dimension shown here. So when you apply that to the lot coverage, it's only slightly reducing the overall open space. And then just giving a more zoomed in, clearer version of the existing conditions. What's an existing nonconformity is highlighted in pink. It's because the 40-foot setback along the rear property line is where the encroachment's occurring. That's by about 16.6 feet into the setback. And then when you apply the blue strip, which is the proposed addition, that triggers a variance for the location of it, which is due to this angle here. This is what's creating a closer setback, or a closer proximity to the rear property line. So the existing nonconforming section of the ordinance says that you can maintain an existing nonconforming structure and not worsen it. So because it's slightly worsening here is what triggers that setback variance request. So when we applied all of those algebraic setback test lines to the proposed structure, to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here, this is the outline of the existing garage here up until this yellow line, and then it's the addition that's highlighted in yellow here. So when you apply all the test lines through the proposed structure, everything is good from the closest point to the property line to about here. So it's hard to see on this screen, but this is a highlight in green. It's this area where the test lines fail the algebraic setback analysis. And then because we're getting further away from the property line in this location, that the analysis complies again. So it's this little area here that fails the analysis, and so therefore that's the reason there's a second setback request before you today.
Say that again, where the second
Yes, ma'am. So
non-conforming.
yes, the existing structure is shown here, and so because they want to propose activity or the addition within the minimum setback of 40 feet, that's your first variance.
Okay,
And then when you apply the algebraic setback formula, the portion that does not comply with the formula is this portion here. So that's a second variance that's applied in addition to the minimum standard of the ordinance. And then we look at the screening. Everything is essentially screened as is. As you can see to the east, there's a forested area before you get to Endicott Lake, which combined creates more or less a buffer to any properties to the east or homes to the east. Going south, there's some forested area here, heavy greenery, and then at the terminus of Lowell Court at the cul-de-sac, it's heavily screened here and along the west. So again, the activity is confined to this small little area right here, but it's because it's already so close to the property line that any improvements over there are going to require a variance request. That concludes my presentation. Is there any questions?
The home is 100 years old,
The house is old.
and I happen to live in a home that's 100 years old. And so they did a lot of things that you would certainly not expect they would do as far as borders and all of that. They didn't pay much attention to it.
But in this case, you basically can't fit a modern car in that garage. So they're just trying to make it long enough.
That's the
Right.
reason for it? Okay.
Yeah, so
They're just trying to make it long enough to put their cars in because they live in this gorgeous house and they can't put their cars in the garage.
Yeah, they never have been able to do that, which
Right.
is
So
amazing.
Model
because
Ts
they've
fit in
been
there.
Right,
but not
exactly.
Horses.
And then, as you saw on one of the previous images with the elevation, it's also a second story. So I don't have the floor plans included in the presentation, but they show that the existing floor plan on the second story extends out that same 5 feet, as you can see here.
Well, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, so the garage is coming out, and then the second story is also coming out with it. So there's a bit of increased floor area on the second floor as well.
Any questions for Eric? Thank you.
Sure, you don't really have much.
As far as engineering, we really didn't have any concerns with this, just given the little area near the home that's added. But as we always do, we do look at drainage for the property just to make sure this won't negatively affect anything. And being so close to Endicott Lake, this property does naturally drain into the lake. Given just that small addition to the home, we didn't feel it was necessary to really add any additional drainage items to this proposed project. But we did look at it.
Obviously gutters will be put on this, mention the rest of the house and for that part of it. Okay. So a little bit of additional roof structure getting rain, but yeah, there shouldn't be any issues.
All right, any more questions for Leah? All right, thank you. Is the applicant here? Would like to make a comment on the application?
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Rea. I'm actually representing my parents. This is their house, Tony and Suzanne Rea. And I grew up in the house. Essentially, as was mentioned earlier by Commissioner Miller, the reason for the addition is the existing garage is just not big enough to park their cars. My parents are both in their 80s now, and as we all know with Michigan winters, the snow and ice, it's just become more of a hazard to go out and scrape the cars, the salt and, you know, the windows and snow. So that's what spurred that on. And as stated, the house is 100 years old. That area to the east, it is completely wooded, especially if you look now that the foliage is sort of grown in. It's really completely, all the neighboring properties to the north, across Endicott Lake, obviously to the east even further, as well as neighbors to the south and west are completely screened in by the trees, wooded area. They also, Tony, my father, as an architect, went to great deals to preserve the kind of unique architectural style of that home as well, and is preserving that. And they don't feel that granting this ordinance, this variance would do any harm to any adjacent properties, and would grant them substantial justice, as it would allow them to enjoy the full use of their garage to park their cars in.
How come they haven't tried to do this years ago?
I know.
Well, he did start doing this a few years ago, and then it's just sort of taken a while, and now as they've gotten older and older, it's become more imperative, and I think my mother has certainly turned up the heat, and here I am helping them out, hopefully, so.
Your dad wanted to get the plans just right.
Exactly. Now I think he just says, let's please get this done, so.
All right, okay. All right, well, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Rea? Thank you. Any comments, questions, discussion? I think it's. Is there a motion?
Should I read it?
Sure.
I move to approve a variance from section 24-196, section 24-196V, and section 24-228 in order to allow a 21.29-foot setback in lieu of the required 40-foot setback along the eastern property line for a proposed garage addition in the rear yard. The applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. Number one, strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the property, as the existing garage structures, which the property owner proposes to improve on, already encroach into the rear yard setback and are an existing non-conforming layout. While the proposal would increase the existing non-conformity, it would result in a net improvement for the property, which this board feels would be unreasonable to deny. Number two, the requested variances would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners, as it would permit a home with garages consistent with the other homes in the neighborhood. The home in question was built in 1925 before the adoption of the City of Bloomfield Hills zoning ordinance. The garages built at that time were not built with modern automobiles in mind. An increase in the size of the garages would allow the homeowners to utilize these existing buildings to park their vehicles. Further, the lot on the side of the property affected by this encroachment into the setback is an undevelopable wooded parcel. Number 3, the plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. This is a historical lot with historical buildings and accessory buildings already in existence on the property. The pre-existing nonconformity related to the placement of the historical garage structures is unique in comparison to other properties in the city. Number 4, the proponent's problem is not self-created. The home was built 100 years ago before the implementation of the city's zoning ordinance regarding setbacks and before the advent of modern automobiles. The homeowner did not create the existing nonconformity related to the setbacks, nor the circumstances which have left him unable to utilize the existing garages for his vehicles. Number 5, the granting of the variances will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
Thank you.
Second.
Do I have a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, your application's been carried. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to the last item. The board will consider the request from the property owner at 1960 Stonycroft Lane for a variance to locate an accessory building within a front yard.
Okay, next is 1960 Stonycroft Lane. This is the Stonycroft Golf Course, located east of Opdyke Road, north of Woodward, and just west of the railroad tracks. Stonycroft Lane is to the southeast, which is how you access the main clubhouse of the golf course. This is zoned A2, split zoned actually. Portion of it is zoned A3, but if you notice here, A2, the bulk of the golf course is zoned A2, where the proposed location for a bathroom facility is proposed. So this was before the Planning Commission last week. This is a accessory building that's not a pool house or a garage, and so the ordinance says if it's not one of those two things, then it requires Planning Commission approval. So that's why it was before them last week, on which they approved the application, subject to the approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals today. So this is before you because it's in a front yard. So accessory buildings are not permitted in front yards. Sorry, I'm skipping ahead here to the yard determination graphic. So because there's nothing to establish the front yard off of Opdyke, the whole golf course is considered front yard. It's not until over here where we have buildings that there's a side yard in this location. I thought we had a rear yard on here, but it appears that it's all front and side yard on this property. So moving our focus back out to where the proposed structure is, the proposed building. Again, we have wetlands here, but nothing that's impactful to the location of where the bathroom facility is located.
Are there evergreens in back of it?
In back of it?
Where the building would be, are there evergreens or trees already in back of it?
There are some trees. The applicant is proposing some new trees to help with the screening off of Opdyke, but there's also existing trees off of Opdyke as well. So we did look at the screening during the Planning Commission application or hearing, and we'll go over that in just a moment. So if the ZBA feels that it's not as adequate as they'd like, that's something that you can consider today too. So the Planning Commission item, as I mentioned, has to be a garage or pool house. If it's going to be an accessory building, it's a golf course restroom. So this has been approved. Before you again is the location. It's not encroaching any setbacks. We'll go over that in a second. It's just the fact that it's within the front yard. So off of Opdyke, which is highlighted in yellow on the left side of the screen, it's about 213 feet from the Opdyke right-of-way. And then with a focus to the north, that's about, sorry, I made this mistake and didn't fix the error. It's in excess of 300 feet to the north, which is where you have your single-family residential neighborhood. This is a nice little rendering of what it would look like. It's only 7 feet by 14 feet in dimension. The roof is of cedar shakes, the siding is hardy plank, and the color would be woodland tan. So it'd be very natural appearance to the surroundings. and then this is just the building detail. It's approximately 13 feet 2 inches maximum height. Accessory buildings are restricted to 14 feet in height, and that's to the midpoint of the roof, so this falls comfortably within that limit. And then looking at the landscape screening, I highlighted some of the existing trees along Opdyke, but again, it's an excess of 200 feet to the facility itself, and there's some additional evergreen screening in terms of arborvitae that will help soften the views from Opdyke, but there would be no views of the structure or the building from the north or any other direction, just because it's so far from other property lines. There was a bit of discussion at the Planning Commission meeting. They did subject their approval to, like I said, the ZBA's consideration. Yeah,
It was Eagle,
the Eagle
and there was the easement to the property.
to the property to the north, right. And so the applicant will be continuing work with that to tie a utility connection, I believe it's to sewer, to the property to the north, which is where the easement is, and I don't think I have it would be up in this location here.
And has that property owner completed the preparation of that easement agreement? I think it was still kind of in the works. And
I don't have any new information on that. I don't know if the applicant can
There
speak to
was a
that.
letter
Yes,
that was
ma'am.
in the packet, so is
Yes.
that
That's-
that person?
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the one that's being referred to, is
Yeah.
that the property owner to the north is granting access.
And there's an approval from that property owner?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
So that concludes my presentation. Again, it's because it's located in a front yard, which in this case is kind of hard to avoid. And so that's the reason it's before you. There's no issue with setbacks. So Leah, you want to?
any questions for Eric? Thank you.
Am I to understand the properties to the north don't see this building at all from where they are?
That is the thought. There's a line of trees here, and again, that's about 300 or so feet. There's a little bit here. I can't speak to that, affirmatively, but it's the distance that makes it so that it's not, adjacent
On your face.
building that's, right up to the property line, so. And then the trees that they are planting are to the west, so that's more towards the Opdyke.
You didn't have any
direction.
course bathrooms before?
There are porta potties there. I believe they're more towards the property line along Opdyke, but this is an improvement to that situation, so.
So the current temporary porta potties get pulled out?
That is correct.
Any more questions for Eric?
So from an engineering standpoint, again, we look at drainage, but given that the property, the golf course itself does have its own stormwater management system, and it does have the Murphy drain nearby, which collects water, the small addition of impervious area, we did not feel would be negatively affecting the property or neighboring properties. As mentioned, they will be working with Eagle and WRC to maintain the proper permits to tap into existing sanitary sewer nearby and on the property to the north. So we've been working with them to review their plans, but as far as engineering goes, we don't see any issues with what they're proposing.
Thank you. Any questions for Leah? Thank you. The applicant have any comments, questions, would like to supplement the presentations?
No.
Okay.
No.
Smart people.
Well, given that, and knowledge of the two conditions, does anybody have a motion they'd like to make?
I was wondering, is it gonna be treed so they can't be seen from the building can't be seen from the house to the north? Any of the houses to the north? Like a motion?
Sure, just make sure the motion includes the two.
I see there's an existing shelter that nobody brought up that would screen the building from houses to the north as well.
And Rathmore can see our.
It's like a lightning shelter for inclement weather.
Is that a question or?
Yeah, well, I'm asking the,
So there is a current shelter, and you are correct, so that's for inclement weather. It's a storm shelter, so if somebody's on number 7, it gives them some reprieve.
okay, so that blocks it as well besides the trees there, so I don't think there's any issues with the houses to the north at all. With the trees and foliage and the existing shelter, it's a non-issue.
Okay, any other discussion? Anyone make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I move to approve a variance from section 24 to 29 to allow a course restroom to be sited in the front yard of this property. The applicant has demonstrated practical difficulty for the following reasons. Strict compliance with the requirements would unreasonably prevent or severely limit the owner from improving the existing site. The property is a 42-acre golf course, and the majority of the course exists in what would be considered the front yard pursuant to the city's zoning ordinance. The variance would do substantial justice to the property owner as well as other property owners, as it would permit restroom facilities consistent with modern expectations for similar properties. Currently, the only restroom facility located on the property are porta potties, which are pre-existing non-conformities. The property owner proposes to improve this condition for its members. The plight of the property owner is due to the uniqueness of the property. The majority of the course is considered front yard space under the city's zoning ordinance. This unique layout renders the course's ability to site a restroom in a location outside the front yard impractical. The proponent's problem is not self-created in that the golf course has been in operation since 1930, well before the city's zoning ordinance went into effect. Additionally, due to the layout of the property, the majority of the property is considered front yard under the city's ordinances, a designation outside of the property owner's control. The granting of the variance will not adversely affect the purposes or objectives of the master plan. The purpose of the master plan in residential areas is to allow homeowners the opportunity to improve the property while minimizing impact on the neighbors.
before we have a second, could I ask that you supplement your motion with the requirements that the applicant also obtain the 2 approvals from Eagle and then the easement from the property owner to the north?
Yes, this would be a motion to accept, to get an approval from the property owner in the north. And what was the other one?
From the Department of Environment, Great Lakes and Energy, Eagle. They're also evaluating this for compliance with state law.
Oh, okay, getting approval from Eagle, who's evaluating the situation.
Have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
And that concludes the agenda for this afternoon. Thank you.
It was easy.